Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rage, and we are back today with Silver Sable and her introduction into Marvel Strike Force in just a few hours. Remember, on days like this, when these characters are added into the game newly, there is going to be a promotional bonus there to take advantage of the red stars. But yeah, she is going to be the next member here of the Vigilante team. And remember, with this being a skill rate team, I think we're going to finally see some renditions here of a four-piece mixed in maybe with a slotted in fifth character to see if they can work through the nodes. Obviously, Punisher and Elektra being also part of that mix. So very exciting for sure. Let's get a quick preview here, but we're going to be taking a look at her full kit, what preemptive upgrades can work potentially on her in terms of an ISO-8 and as well as the T4 perspective. And then obviously, whether or not you guys are planning to use power cores for her, I think I'm going to wait and see if the four-piece works. If the four-piece works, I haven't cored at all for Daredevil Modern or Silver Sable. I'm not planning to just yet because I want to see what those options look like, because they've been actually doing a pretty phenomenal job of releasing these characters in terms of the slow drip. And events usually, the free-to-play events usually follow a couple weeks. So I mean, not a crazy rush to get these characters, especially depending on where your alliance is also in terms of the raid progression. So that's why it's definitely been a good sign for sure. So let's get started, guys. Silver Sable, she is going to be the heavy hitting blaster of the team. So she's bringing that big damage, barrier clear, as well as multiple flips on positive for enemies. Top of that, she does actually possess a passive here that you can see that's going to allow her to apply defense down to the targets of her attacks. With 4 more Vigilante allies, she does block enemies from gaining death proof, and on offense, lowering the enemy dodge chance by 100%. Her basic and special flipping positives. With a full Vigilante team, she reduces the duration of all positive effects on enemies. And what she's specifically going to be providing value in raids is that she gives herself and the Vigilante allies a burst to speed bar on spawn. Additional boost each time an enemy is with vulnerable is going to get attacked, and her ultimate becomes even more traumatic, adding that trauma, clearing charges from all enemies, and adding as well as the ability block to support enemies. So it's going to be obviously very necessary to have her on the team because she's going to have a lot of restriction for the enemies. But having said that, I am interested to see what she's going to be gaining with having the full Vigilante team versus what she can do right now, right? So that's definitely something you got to watch out for, and I have a feeling Hit Monkey is going to be a very important piece of that puzzle, especially completing the full Vigilante team. So point blank is her basic ability, attacking primary target for percentage damage. As you can see, she also flips with this basic, but aside from that, nothing too crazy. It only aims at one target here, as you can see, and then with the T4 flipping 3 positive effects into negative. So this is actually really good value here in terms of the T4 upgrade, because you can see really it's going to be just flipping 1 and then additional damage, and then as well when you are able to get that T4 upgrade, it turns into 3. So this is definitely one I would consider for a basic, but usually more oftentimes than not, the special, ultimate, and passive are where you want to prioritize. So let's take a look at that before we jump the gun here. Special insertion protocol. In raids, she's going to be clearing barrier from all enemies. She's going to be attacking primary and adjacent targets for percentage damage. Slow is also going to be impacted. Bleed is also going to be inflicted on the enemies, and then similar to the basic, right? She's going to be flipping all positives into negatives on primary and adjacent, and on top of that, even adding a 2 bleed on all the enemies impacted. So I think that's really nice. For sure, the special is going to be powerful, just to not just apply some debuffs, some slows across the board, but as well, obviously, flipping all positives into negatives. This is going to actually change the situation in terms of a buff and debuff standpoint. So definitely this is would be a very strong upgrade here for the T4, something I would definitely be interested in. Flash and clear, ultimate ability. Applying heal block to all enemies. She's once again clearing barrier from all enemies, but as well, this one actually does apply vulnerable, so it gives us a sense of what potentially her ISO-8 could be if she's already naturally doing it with one of her abilities. But you can see it actually stacks up to a maximum of 5 times, and as well additional extra focus, and so that means this ability is usually going to land and without fail. You can see there's disruption. She's going to be clearing charges from all enemies. Heal block is also applied. And then what I really like is this is a raid team, but they're given some war-esque bonuses to give us a little bit more theory crafting, so to speak, right? So on war offense, if there's at least one villain enemy, she's applying trauma for 2 turns to all enemies. In raids, this always applies trauma. So I love that little value add right there. That's really important to know. On offense, if this character has 4 more Vigilante allies, she's also going to be reducing the duration of all positive effects on all enemies by and then as well as additional damage, bonus damage. So what's really important to note here, guys, is that when it does say all positive effects, I do believe this is going to actually include safeguard, because it doesn't specifically exclude it. So that's very, very important to note here. It's going to be a powerful ability, not just in raids. And then as you can see on war offense, if there's at least one villain ally, she applies ability block for 2 turns to 2 random support enemies. And then once again, raids always applying that ability block instead. So this is a very strong ultimate ability. I love that kind of additional value in war, because it can give us some creative ideas there. But more importantly, remember, the reduction of the positives only work if you have 4 more vigilante allies, right? So this is not going to be fully in effect until you actually have Hitmonkey part of the team. So just be mindful of that. If you're using this character already with Daredevil, Monitor, and testing out the raids, well, you might not see this being as impactful until that addition of Hitmonkey, which we assume to be next week. Silver Merc passive, last but not least here, in raids, she's filling speed bar by 15% on herself and all vigilante allies. Focus of this character and ally can only be reduced by offense down. If this character has 4 more vigilante allies, so again, watch for that, that numeral tag there, because this is not going to be fully in effect. Enemies can't gain death proof, so you're not going to see this until Hitmonkey, right? In raids, she's once again filling up speed bar every time there's a successful attack on a character, in addition to applying defense down on each attacked character. Beautiful. On offense, when she does have 4 more vigilante allies, the dodge chance also gets lowered by 100%, which means everything basically lands. And then finally, in raids, when an enemy that has vulnerables attacked, she's going to be filling up the speed bar by 15%. So thankfully, the good news is that this part is actually going to still kick in even without the 4 vigilante allies being active. So I love that, but you're not going to see the death proof reduction. You're not going to see the dodge chance, right? So that's why thankfully these power core orbs for these characters stay in the shop for quite some time right now, but you really won't get the value until Hitmonkey is actually released next week. So with that said, guys, her special, her passive, her ultimate, all 3 are must upgrades, and really the basic ability is a luxury, but this is a strong basic that can flip a lot. So if you're planning to build up raid character, makes sense to actually build her up all the way to the max, given what we've seen right here. Now, having said that, because she's doing a lot of the damage with the blaster, guys, there's a couple of things you can do with her. Her special and ultimate do hit more than one enemy, so a raider can help maximize that damage output. I think that's probably going to make the most sense, but also depends on how many raiders or skirmishers are already on your team, right? So I can definitely see her also being a striker, because having that striker mechanic and going in for the second basic, she's also going to be able to flip those positives into negatives, especially if she has that additional strike each time. So I think I'm going to start off with Raider to maximize her output damage, but I can 100% see some opportunities to use her as a striker to maximize that output. But once again, guys, for myself, I'm not going to use cores just yet. I'm going to see if a 4-piece even works from other content creators and envoys. And more importantly, remember, a lot of these bonuses that we're getting from the raids aren't going to be fully live until Hitmonkey does get released next week. So I fear we probably won't see some meaningful footage until next week when Hitmonkey does get added into the game. But that's my 2 cents right now, guys. Don't forget to open the Red Star Orbs. That's your quick preview right there in terms of Silver Sable and her character introduction into Marvel Strike Force. Let me know what you think in the comments below, if you're a fan or not, and if you're excited for Hitmonkey as well next week. Thank you for your time as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.